Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
If you're just tuning in, this is the Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Audio Network. Joining me now, I almost have to pinch myself, one of my favorite actresses, Drea de Matteo. You know her from, of course, The Sopranos, The Desperate Housewives, Sons of Anarchy, and so much more. She's a New Yorker. She also is a designer. She has her own streetwear line, Ultra Free, and she has a line of jewelry coming up. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but Drea de Matteo, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Hey, Roger. Thanks for having me.
You have had an amazing career, and of course, I'm half Italian myself. I'm half Hungarian, half Italian. I'm Italian from the waist down. And I, of course, loved The Sopranos because I saw so many of my own relatives in there. If you remember the character who played Tony's mother, well, that was my mother. Tough, suspicious, loyal, deeply religious, and very strong-willed. It was, having grown up in that New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, I was born in the Norwalk Hospital and grew up in the New York suburbs. I saw so much of the culture that I grew up with. You've had really iconic roles, Sopranos, Sons of Anarchy, and so on. Do you feel like those kind of gritty world of crime situations reflect the current political undercurrents of Hollywood and America today?
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, David Chase was just doing an interview, and he was talking about how The Sopranos was really a reflection on the decline of American civilization back then. And I never knew that. I was young when we did the show. I wasn't focused on the decline of anything except, my bank account at that time. But it's interesting to think about that through that lens. And I had done a podcast on it a while back, too. And I that's really the way I looked at it. I looked at it as a way of sort of like a microcosm for what was happening in the world at large. And that was right around 9/11, too. So that happened while we were shooting. And, man, he was psychic in that, because that would really be the beginning of our freedoms just completely visibly being gone. If you were paying close enough attention and not believing the hype on everything. So, yes, I do think that these shows are – I don't think that this was one of the Pentagon TV shows, but I do think that that it really does reflect. And now that we're in this society with a government that behaves like a mafia in a way that it's undeniable now. I mean, I'm sure it's always sort of acted that way, and that's why the Constitution was put in place. But, I mean, even the mafia has better morals than what this government is doing at this point, in my opinion.
Absolutely true. Of course, I was shocked to find out how many people didn't know what gabagool was. I had to explain. I had to explain that to them. It's very dangerous to be in the entertainment business and have strong political opinions that are not politically correct. I had a very famous actor who played me in a movie, and he studied a lot of video footage of me, and he came to where I live in South Florida, wanted to meet me in person. He was a very nice guy. I think our politics were aligned, but he said, could we please eat at a place where we won't be seen together? And I thought that was kind of strange, but I said, sure. And he explained very candidly, look, I love Trump. I love America. I think the country's slipping badly. But if that were known in Hollywood, I'd be out of work pretty darn fast. My good friend, Robert Davi, who's a great fellow and a great patriot and an unbelievable singer, has told me the same. So when you delve into the political, you were a supporter of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is a rebel in his own right, someone I admire very much, he's not a close friend, but he's an acquaintance. And I now think this alliance that he's formed with Donald Trump may be our last best chance to save the country. No, they're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But they do understand that the current regime threatens all of our constitutional liberties, the most vital one, of course, being free speech, because if we can't talk to each other, if we are subjected to censorship on all platforms, well, we can't solve any of our problems. You made the jump from Kennedy to Trump. How do you see it?
I mean, yes, it is definitely a scary place to be. I got pushed into it. I never would have just taken a stance politically in my life. I actually could not stand to hear actors get on their soapboxes and preach politics. And it was the most annoying thing I'd ever heard in my life when it was happening in the world. I was like, just, shut up and act and do your job and entertain people. I understood it from the music industry more, especially because I grew up after the whole hippie 70s movement, whether that was some government psyop or not at the time, whatever, it still made the best music of all time, and we still relate to that. So the arts were always so involved in protest art and in civil, with any sort of anti-establishment vibes. When the mandates happened, when the vaccine mandates happened, I always consider myself sort of a hippie, and so when that happened, I was like, hold on a minute, my body, my choice. Like, what happened to these ideas? So that's sort of how I got pushed into it. And then I had to do certain things to save my home. I went into foreclosure because I couldn't act anymore. And I wasn't really ever a career actor. I know I did a lot of great shows, but it never really interested me the way it would interest other actors to just be, ahead of the game. I literally took a job to support my family, and then I would not work for a while just so I could be with my kids because I'm a single mom. But when the mandates happened, I became extremely scared. I saw what was happening in Canada. I saw the way Trudeau was treating the men in the trucker convoy for speaking out. I saw what happened to all the frontline workers. And how they went from heroes to zeros overnight, and just the nature of the entire country. Not only did they orchestrate a complete shutdown of an entire world, but then all of my fellow just citizens fell in line with everything they were putting out over the television, and that really struck me and really freaked me out, that even a citizen could be okay with a firefighter or a nurse getting fired over these mandates. I was like, how are you okay with this? Why aren't you protesting your brothers and sisters' livelihoods and losing their jobs? This is becoming authoritarian. This is the dictatorship that you were blaming on Trump. And this is happening right here with Biden calling this the winter of death. So I knew in that moment, and I was petrified. I wasn't going to speak out. I was afraid that my bank accounts would be tapped like Trudeau was doing for the truckers. so I was quiet until it came out that because I started an OnlyFans fan page, which is really what it is. It's like an Adriana La Cerva fan page. I had to do that to just save my home.
Folks, if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Drea de Matteo, one of my favorite actresses, and we'll be right back.
This is The Roger Stone Show.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone, who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now, he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, they treated him very unfairly.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
This is The Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group. Now, here's Roger Stone.
And we're back. We're talking to Emmy Award-winning actress Drea de Matteo, a proud daughter of Queens, New York. She is you know her, of course, from The Sopranos, Desperate Housewives, Son of Anarchy, and far more. I have to ask you, what was it like working with James Gandolfini?
Oh, man, he was the greatest. You know, there's a documentary that's out right now about David Chase's life, and they did a really crappy portrayal of who Jim was in that documentary. A lot of us were unhappy about it because they sort of painted him out to be just like Tony Soprano. And he was the complete opposite of Tony Soprano, but he was summoned to play, you know, a beast on TV, a beast that you would still love. In real life, this was the most generous man, a big jokester, too, fun to have on set, and not only fun, but to watch the man act and get into that character was incredible. But the thing that stands out the most was his generosity and he would probably be very annoyed about the injustices in the world right now because he didn't like the injustices within the actual corporation of HBO and when they didn't want to pay us for DVD sales. He went and called each of us into his trailer and gave each of us a check for $30,000 for DVD sales because he felt terrible that he was the only one they graced with that. So he was always just taking care of everybody. So he was fantastic.
Yeah, he reminded me very much of my own Uncle Angelo. So I could identify with it. At least the character he played, I should say. Unless you've grown up in that New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area and you're from an Italian-American family, it's for many people, this was kind of their first being first subjected to it. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, I'm a proud member of the Italian American Civil Rights League, which you can find at the IARCL.org. It's a nonprofit organization where we work to preserve Italian American heritage and culture and the important contributions made to this country by Italian Americans. It's totally volunteer. Nobody gets paid. But we have our first annual awards ceremony coming up right there in Little Italy. I think it'll be at Cafe Palermo, actually, in Little Italy, coming up in December. Drea, I'm going to invite you. I think you would enjoy it.
That's awesome. My mom my mom founded with I think it was Matilda Cuomo and a bunch of other people, but the National Organization of Italian American Women. And they were sending girls to college. But, you know, there were a lot of Italian organizations that were protesting us, and they'd literally picket in front of HBO. And I became the most outspoken one against that because I felt that the Italians that were so insecure about their own heritage were the ones protesting that we were telling a mafia story. Because I was like, why would you want to tell a story about a bunch of Italian doctors that live a straight-laced life? That's not fun. You want to see the subcultures. And, every nationality has their subculture. So let's go there. It's more interesting. And also it was such an artistic it was such an incredible piece of art. And to not appreciate Italians for creating yet another multi-layered piece of art, I thought was very short-sighted on the protesters' part, that they couldn't take that as like a notch in their belt, that their people created something beautiful like that.
Well, we've seen this great tendency to take down the statues of Christopher Columbus. What happened outside the Minnesota Capitol, Tim Walz refused to defend the statue. Then once it was destroyed by terrorists, he refused to replace it. And he basically justified their illegal act. They talked about moving the statue in New York City. The statue of Mayor Frank Rizzo, no longer in front of the Philadelphia City Hall. It's been put in storage. It's a willful attempt to destroy our heritage. It's part of a larger scheme to destroy who we are and where we came from. One really cool thing that I saw in your bio, which is really shows what a small world. You once owned a rock and roll vintage clothing store in the East Village, which is called Filth Market, for several years. I actually went there once. I was actually in your store. I'm a clothes horse. Everybody knows it, but sometimes the greatest pieces are vintage, and who can afford to pay retail anyway? You could go to the flagship Polo store at 72nd and Madison, but it's great window shopping. Nothing in there I can't afford anymore. But as you know, you could, I'm a great, I shop Etsy.com. I shop Poshmark because I'm a clothes horse and I admit it. And some of the best stuff can be found at the lowest prices imaginable. Most of it, as they say, gently used. You have a clothing line, Ultra Free, which is at ultrafree.co. That's not ultrafree.com. That's ultrafree.co. And you have a jewelry line coming up. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, I never thought that you were going to tell me that you had been inside our store when we were kids. That's amazing. Okay, so ultrafree.co was born out of complete frustration with the government. I mean, that there's no other. It's a streetwear line too, but it has tons of political statements on it. They're all kind of campy. They're definitely a little more on the masculine side, but the girls buy them and cut the necks off and wear them the way they want to wear them. And it's sort of it's the We the People line. This is for we the people. Like, we make jokes like, get your pre-apocalypse gear here. This way they know what team you're on, and you're on team We the People, basically. Because when all hell breaks loose, and God forbid we're in the middle of a civil war, a world war, all of these things, get your ultra free tee so that people know where you stand, and you stand for each other, type of thing. And then the jewelry is brand new for us. They are AKs and they're guns. There's guns and nameplates right now. As my legacy on The Sopranos, I always wore nameplates, and the nameplates are called the Tombstone Collection. The chicks like the nameplates. You can put your name on it, or you can get ultra free on it. They're personalized, and you have little protection charms that go on the side of them, like a cross or another gun. And the guns are called the Protection Collection. And because I was in The Sopranos and my ex's name is Shooter Jennings, I always wore these guns around my neck. People would give me little tiny revolvers and bullet earrings and all that sort of stuff. So I'm sort of just bringing to life all the jewelry that I've always worn. But of course, people have problems with these things now because you can't talk about guns. I mean, there was a band called Guns N' Roses, in case people forgot, Sex Pistols, the Velvet Revolver. But now, if you even, people used to love having guns and skulls on their shirts, and I don't understand. That was the thing of liberals. And now the liberals freak out if that's what you're wearing. And I'm still a liberal. So I'm just like, well, you guys need to stop clutching your pearls and start clutching your guns, because this is a different society we're living in right now. So yeah, the guns in the necklaces they're super cool. They're big, long, hanging guns. There's all different. You have to go look at them, but that's the protection collection. And we also just don't believe in taking away our guns. So there's that. And that's coming from a hippie. That's coming from a real hippie. I'm like, if the government has guns, then we're having guns. If criminals have guns, we're having guns. And when all of my friends are like, but what about school shooters? I was like, what's going to stop a school shooter? Do you think your mind control is going to stop that school shooter? They're already under some sort of control. The only thing that's going to stop them is another gun. So
it's realism. You know, when I was growing up, I was much younger. I wanted to be an actor. My parents thought that was ridiculous. They wanted me to be an electrician or a plumber or a wallboard man because, as my mom said, those guys make good money. And then I read a book, The Conscience of a Conservative by Barry Goldwater, and I decided I wanted to be in politics. And I figured out that, well, politics was show business for ugly people. And then, this is not the case in your regard. I salute you for having the courage to enter the arena. Your support of Robert Kennedy is admirable. Your decision to now join him in the Liberty League and support Donald Trump is equally. I know it will make your entertainment career more difficult, so we salute you for your patriotism, for your courage. And lastly, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on The Roger Stone Show.
Thanks for having me, Roger.